A test of the government's green credentials. Are our forests and wildlife parks now under some sort of shadow with so many pending projects that perhaps this new wildlife board is looking to review over the next one day now? They've already spent all of today looking at them. Well, PK Sen, Executive Director of the Ranthambore Foundation, joining us at this point, as is Praveen Bhargav, former member of the Wildlife Board. Bittu Sehgal, who's also been a former member of the Wildlife Board but is also editor of Sanctuary Asia. Gurcharan Das, author of India Grows at Night, and Samit Patra continuing with us, spokesperson of the BJP. But let me begin by asking Bittu Sehgal first. The newly constituted National Board for Wildlife has only two independent environmental experts on board. You also say there's no proper representation of NGOs. Despite your concerns, your letters to this effect, the Wildlife Board has gone ahead. It's met today. It's going to meet tomorrow, after which we'll probably have a final list of all the projects that have been cleared by them. What are your fears at this point?
Well, my fears are fairly straightforward. I mean, we ask for diversity in a forest. We should have a diversity of opinions too. And without a diversity of opinions, any leader, whether he be the captain of a cricket team or the Prime Minister of India, without the diversity of opinions, robust diversity of opinions, he stands to be hampered in proper decision making. My objection is not to actually even how many people are on the board. My objection is to the fact that there seems to be a very clear-cut policy, clear the project at any cost. That at any cost business, I think, is bad economics, apart from being bad for India in terms of its ecology, its climate change, its water security, food security. So I don't have any, I'm agnostic on the political front, but I am very worried about India, yes.
Okay, clearances at any cost. PK Sen, come in on this also. So do you think the intent of this newly constituted Wildlife Board has changed from previous wildlife boards? You know, the need to protect India's national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, the need for independent voices, NGOs on that board, now perhaps no longer being seen as necessary as it was before?
Yeah, I think I was a little surprised. You know, only 3 members have come out. One is organizational member and 2 members are independent members out of 10 and out of 5. This constitution of the board is really surprising. But I don't know what is the intention, what is the objective. And very clearly speaking, I'm not only surprised, I'm a little shocked also, and everybody in the conservation field, they are thinking what is going to happen in future.
So you think this sends out the wrong kind of message right at the very beginning?
No, I can't say that it's the wrong kind of message, because, you know, from the Prime Minister we have seen his performance in the protection of Gir. And he was excellent there. The lions in Gir are totally safe. He has taken all the initiatives to protect the lions when there was poaching cases in 2005 and 2006. But in the field of environment, this National Board of Wildlife, it's a constitutional provision because it is under Act of Parliament. And if the reasons behind only nominating three people in the board from outside, it is simply not only surprising, it's a shock as well.
Okay, very strong words coming from green activists at this point, who are saying that the constitution of this new wildlife board that's meeting today and tomorrow raises alarm bells. Now, do you believe that their fears need to be addressed?
I believe the fears need to be addressed well, yes. Let me allay the fear right now over here. I had a word with Mr. Prakash Javadekar also, and he was very benevolent. He told, see, there's no need of any fear. It's only that approximately 394 projects are pending. and they are projects of immense importance, and there is a great deal of pressure to clear on them, in the sense that defense projects also, the roadways with China, and all these issues have to be looked after. So the minimum quota that was required to have this has been completed as of now. It is not, and a number of people have written letters of suggestions, and many of the green activists over here probably might have written letters to the government, and the government will take note of it. The government will see to it that the quota is extended, it is fulfilled, and the people are added to it. It's not that it's complete as of now.
But then why have this meeting at this point?
I told you, 394 pending projects, defense. I mean, the issues of prime importance, and Mr. Prakash Javadekar in one of the interviews to leading newspaper has himself said that we are seeing to it that the public...
I can see Praveen Bhargav vociferously disagreeing with you. I'm going
to
take
not completed my... This
no, I will certainly come back to you.
But
yes, Praveen Bhargav, you clearly have a point to make. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely incorrect, because the Act does not differentiate between defense projects or petroleum projects or development projects. It is, this board has to be constituted as per the Wildlife Protection Act. There is absolutely no latitude for the government. This is not a politically appointed board. This is a statutory committee appointed under 5A of the Wildlife Protection Act, and the rules are extremely clear that the composition of the board cannot deviate from what is prescribed under the Act. It is ab initio void, irrespective of what the pressures are of development, which we fully understand. Development must happen, but the board itself must be constituted correctly, because this is the only body which is going to look at just 4% of India, which is reserved for wildlife in the form of national parks and sanctuaries, and it is chaired by the Prime Minister. It has to be given utmost seriousness during composition, and the government doesn't have any latitude to constitute it in any other form other than what is prescribed in the law.
Sambit Patra, respond to that. There is no latitude to the government. This is something that green activists are saying, that they have a case that they could even take to the Supreme Court.
Definitely. I mean, like, most importantly, I will remind the august presence over here that the very first day that Mr. Prakash Javadekar took up as a minister, he said that we are not going to compromise on environment. We are not going to see to it that the green clearance means that the green cover will not take place properly. We are going to see to it that afforestation will take place. We are going to see to it that we conserve the environment as we are supposed to conserve the environment, and development are not antagonists. They have to move together, and that's all we are asking for, because the pressing issues which at present has to be addressed, and that's the reason as to why some people have to be accommodated in the future, and we allay the fears. Don't you worry, you will see to it that everything that you have written to the Prime Minister, you have written to the Environment Minister, would in fact be complied with.
Bitu Sehgal, do you believe that there is perhaps,
the fears...
And I'll take just 2 more seconds.
Yes.
25th of April this year. Sir, I'll just take 2 more minutes. 25th of April this year itself, Mr. Jairam Ramesh, as the Environment Minister, had chaired a meeting with the Wildlife Committee. And I remember within 40 projects, in fact, were cleared in a hurry within 2 hours. And I have a statement of most of the members there.
And what is the point that you're making about that?
See, I'll just complete one statement and tell you what the point I was making. I mean, we have a member, Ms. Divya Chavda, and the member says that the hard copy with the maps was delivered to my house on Sunday 24th April at Jaipur, when I'd already left for Delhi. No one was looking into the whole issue, but the problem over here is, I mean, you only had the quota then.
Sambit Patra, you're also saying that close to 390 projects, etc., are pending, which the Wildlife Board now has to look at, and they have 2 days in which to do it. So if that's not a rushed agenda, then what is?
That does not mean that 394 projects would be cleared in a single day. We saw how Jairam Ramesh was clearing it within 2 hours, 40 projects in 2 hours, the last moment rush. All I mean to say...
This is not a clearance board. This is a board to protect wildlife.
All I mean to say, yes, it's not a clearance board. It's almost as if, I mean, they can suggest, but it's almost mandatory that whatever the ministry feels, they can choose. They may reject the whole thing. But at the end of the day, the issue is they may have the number of people. What I mean to say, they may have all the people required on the board, but they were not following the rules. We are following the rules, we'll have the people as well, just wait.
Bitu Sehgal, come in on this. One point that's been raised in all of this is that there were...
I have to come in over here and tell you that... listen, may I just say that I actually sympathize with Sambit's position. He's the spokesperson for the BJP. He doesn't have a position of his own on this. But the fact of the matter is that at this moment in time, the strategy is very clear. Hurry up, release some of these projects, then hold on for a while. Then you bring everybody else on when a fait accompli has been already served to the nation and to all the people like us who might shout impotently about how bad things are. What my essential worry right now, Sambit, is this, that you have come into power at a time when we have faced 8 years of gross mismanagement of India's ecological underpinnings. Now, we had expectations from this government that you will come in and you will implement the law on all fronts, against the problems of women, against the various corruption, all this kind of thing. But you seem to be doing everything else except the issues of environment. You're saying we'll postpone that decision and take it later, but this you can't do, Sambit. The fact is that once you've destroyed this forest, you can put toothpicks in the ground and hope they'll sprout, but they won't perform the ecological functions that India needs. It's going to be an unmanageable subcontinent.
Okay.
Trust at least those people who've spent their lives studying this.
Okay. Sambit, I'm going to come back to you for a reaction, but I also want to bring in Gurcharan Das at this point. Thank you, sir, for listening to all of this so patiently. And, you know, this is a debate that never goes away, environment versus development, particularly given the years of stalling of industrial and infrastructure projects that we've seen, the policy paralysis in a sense. Do you see this new government perhaps, you know, putting things on overdrive even, whether it's making green clearances available online, more transparency, but at the same time, do you believe that wildlife activists have some justified fears in what they've been bringing to the board this time?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, every nation has to protect its environment, but no nation stops 750 projects in the process. I'm not saying this. This was said by the head of a European Nations Protection Agency. So what our issue is not protecting the environment or not protecting the environment. It's a question of creating an institution with transparency, which will have trust and which will have people who are reasonable. You have to also create jobs, and every nation has to cope with this. I have a relative who works in the US Environmental Protection Agency, and he is horrified by the way we go about it in India, whereas which is case by case by case, whereas in the West, it's done all through a rules-based, transparent mechanism. And so this government, I think, will have to work hard. Now, the fact is the pendulum has swung the other way, and we need to bring it back. The difficulty is that many of the environmentalists are their own enemies.
Swing in the reverse direction just for that kind of course correction?
Thankfully, Sir has brought the whole discussion in a way which I'm just going to conclude over here. Sir, I mean, let me read out a tweet of the Environment Minister, and I think that would be very apt over here. Delays in defense projects were due to case-by-case decision-making process. We will make policy-led decisions, we'll put policies in place. So that's what Sir was saying right now.
All right, I want to bring the environmentalists back on this.
Let's have policies on place. I mean, a tremendous lot of loss has been done to the country.
Do you think that's even possible in the Indian context, whether it's a radar base to be set up on an Andaman island where, you know, the Narcondam hornbills are perhaps one of the most endangered birds in the country? Yes, certainly strategic defense issues paramount over here, but can things be applied with just a rule applied really and not a case-by-case review of every project, as is being suggested here?
No, let me say this. Nobody has any objections to securing India's defense. That is absurd. That's not the point here. The point here is this is a board which has to function as per law.
Right.
And has any other board or committee on economic affairs talked of conservation? Why should a wildlife board talk always of development? And we are talking of 4% of India's landscape which has to be secured at all costs. We are not talking of other forests on the National Board for Wildlife. And the rules have to be followed. This board is ab initio void because of the composition. There is no way this board can take any decision. And there was an excellent opportunity to appoint people with good knowledge who could have brought and balanced conservation and development. But that opportunity, I believe, has not happened. And Sambit Patra's point that the minister is concerned is all very well, but let him demonstrate by reconstituting this board with the right people.